your page. I'm going to type in that in the chat too. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Tina Marie. I'm the CEO and founder of The Profit Project. I am a success coach for small business owners starting up their businesses within their first 3 years. I help them build their purpose into a legacy. And today we're going to talk about how to get organized both in your business and your personal life to help you get more productive and reach your goals. Today we have Samantha Pointer and Andrea Hancock. So I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce yourselves. Go ahead, Andrea, why don't you start and tell us what you do and your business.
Sure. Hi, I'm Andrea Hancock with Dexterous Organizing. I'm a professional organizer and productivity coach, specifically helping telecommuters and solopreneurs who work from home to get organized in their home and home offices and their lives.
Awesome. And you, Samantha?
I am Samantha Pointer. I am the technology organizing guru at Get It Together, and I help small businesses and entrepreneurs to become tech savvy and digitally organized.
Awesome. So some of the few questions that we're going to start off today is, one of the biggest questions I always get, and what we had on our blog was, what is the biggest mess that you've ever seen or biggest project you've ever had to take on, and what are some tips to prevent that? Either one of you.
That's an interesting question. I would say one that stands out to me, I think it was because she was my first what I call a stranger client, where she knew not me, or I didn't know her, or didn't know a friend of a friend. And in the beginning, I was didn't know how to identify orders. Of course, now I do. And she asked the question over the phone console, "You think I'm a hoarder?" And when I went over there, I couldn't really give her a definitive answer. She was not a hoarder. She downsized. She didn't downsize properly. She was at the time living in a 2-bedroom split-level townhouse, and before, I believe she was living in a 4-bedroom. She was a divorcee, so she just kind of packed as much as she could, took it with her, and then got involved in life. You know, she worked a full-time job, she did part-time jobs on the weekend, and kind of checked out through work. So she never had the time to really go through her things and downsize. So it was a bit of a challenge in the beginning, but we got to a point where she could rent out her second bedroom, which was pretty awesome because it was pretty full when we first started working together.
That's awesome. Did you end up cleaning out her area with her, just picking up items to donate, or did you end up moving some stuff into storage, like the things that she wanted to keep that couldn't fit into the apartment or home?
A lot of it was her making decisions on donate. In the beginning, it was hard for her to let go of things. So that's the first part of the process is deciding what's donate, what's keep. And if it's what's staying and what's not staying. So if it's staying, then we think about zoning. If it's not staying, is it donate? Is it sell? Is it going back to an original owner? Things of that nature. So with her, a lot of things she donated, and it was great. The hardest thing, she was a collector of, and I had never heard of it before, her longer burger baskets. They're collectible items, and so she got rid of a lot of things, and then I was like, after a while, I was like, hey, we're putting baskets in baskets. You realize that? So she eventually, was able to part with some of them. But yeah, it took a while.
Awesome. How about you, Samantha? What's the biggest mess or project that you had to encounter?
The biggest project was actually a hoarder, and it was it actually took at least a year or two in working with several other organizers. His wife had died a long while ago, and I think that's where the house stayed was when she died. He just let it pile up for decades. So we actually had to go in there, declutter everything, get all his tax work together, get that sorted because he hadn't been able to file taxes in some years. So we had to get all that together too. And we were able to get everything, his furniture reupholstered, floors relaid, and donate a lot of things, sell a lot of things, and get it back to livable. Because he was an older gentleman, so of course his family wanted to eventually be able to sell the home. So that was the largest project I was ever a part of.
How did he feel after that? That must have been a somewhat nostalgic to let go of some of that, but must have felt a million times better after that cleanup.
He felt way better, way better, because he just got stuck because his wife handled all that, and I think he was still grieving the loss of her anyway. So I think having her things, that they cherished together, being able to display that again without all that clutter really helped his frame of mind and his peace of mind.
That's good. That's great. So we have a question, and sorry, I'm reading to the side, but what do you do with all your business paperwork, and how long to keep client files?
Well, business paperwork, I I would say if you're still in business, I would keep it for as long as I need to. Like, I'm not a CPA or a tax person or anything like that, but anything you need for taxes, you need to keep forever. Basically, if you're going to be writing things off, if you decide to close down your business, I think it's like around 7 to 10 years afterwards, you could probably get rid of it safely. But I like to keep my client files. That's why I like to get as much of it as possible scanned in and digital, so I don't have to have the physical files, but I've always had the digital files, and that is less clutter.
Is there any software that you recommend, like Dropbox or cloud-based, or do you put all your digital files on an external hard drive?
All my digital files are either in Evernote, Dropbox, and Google Drive, because I keep a redundancy in my cloud-based services in case one goes down. I have the duplicate in another space. So my client files are in Evernote, where I keep all of my written stuff that I scan in. I scan stuff to Evernote. But I also keep like pictures and things that clients have sent to me through email or something. I keep that in either Dropbox or in Google Drive.
Excellent. What about you, Andrea? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I kind of like Samantha feel. I'm not a CPA or a lawyer, so I usually recommend that my clients get how long they should keep things based on the industry they're in, based on how long they have been in business and so forth, from that type of expert. And, if we're at a site and they don't know, the best solution I always suggest is scanning and getting that digitized, because years and years and years of paperwork just take up a tremendous amount of space. And then, you always have to worry about fire or theft or things of that nature. So having it in the cloud certainly takes up a lot of less space. And then it also makes it, if you especially have it in the cloud, it makes it easier to delegate to teams, because you can give folder permissions, especially in Dropbox and Google Drive, to different folks, and they're able to access information. Whereas if it's static in a file folder, it's a little bit more difficult. In order to do that, you have to either scan it and fax it, or wait till the person has the physical file. So scanning is the new way, and there's even now ways that you can do business without producing paper. I know in my business, I'll create my service agreement and my project plans via PDF. And then I have a program I use called HelloSign. And there's a few other options where people can sign electronically, and then that signed document is then turned into a PDF that you have. So very rarely do I ever print client files. But if you're in the industry that has to have print, then I would try to see if you could get it scanned. And there's several services that you can take banker's boxes worth of paper to get scanned. It can be expensive in the beginning, but if you have a schedule, then it's a little bit more manageable.
It is an investment, whatever you do when you're buying file folders or paying for software to get organized. It is an investment, but eventually it pays in itself. And I like that you mentioned there's companies where you can get your digital or your documents signed digitally. One that I used to use, or I still kind of use for my client agreements and any contracts I have, NDAs, I use Right Signature, and they're approved by the IRS as well, so you can even sign tax forms that way. So that's another program people can look into if you do business online, have clients far away that they can sign your documents, and everything is signed and you can send them a copy and you'll have a copy, and even time stamps when they signed it and when you signed it as well, so you never have to worry about, let's say if you have a client you need 2 people to sign and they're 2 different states. It's a great way to digitally, keep that saved and have everybody sign that way. You mentioned zoning before, Andrea, so how do you use zoning to help organize your clients?
Well, zoning is very specific to the client. It depends on how they use the room, how often they do certain activities in the room. You want things that you do often, in prime real estate, within reachable space. Things that you don't do often can be put away, could be stored away in another room or so forth. So it really is client specific, and that's a lot of times we ask a lot of questions in the beginning to make sure that how we're zoning and how we're containing and how we're putting things away is based on the use of how that client is doing things. So it could very well be different for everyone else. Some people, like I have a TV in the room. Some people don't have a TV in the room. So I think a lot of times people, why clutter starts is they have no clear definition of what their space is going to be meant for. You say you want a calming area, but then you have something that maybe contradicts that. So you want your bedroom to be a relaxing oasis, but then you have a treadmill in there. So you have to kind of start, once you make the definition, you can then match what's in the room to that definition. And then you can see, like the game on Sesame Street. What if these things don't belong? So you can start to make those decisions based on the definition that you've given or you say you want in the room.
Excellent. So Samantha, you being the tech guru, have you ever encountered anyone that was a little hesitant about moving to the cloud or handling technology in general to get them organized, and how did you handle those situations, or what do you say?
I have a lot of people who are leery about the cloud, first of all, because they don't really know what that is. I get that question a lot, like, what is the cloud? And I explain it to them as really the cloud is nothing but the internet. It's a space, usually in either California or Texas, in a big room of just computers that houses all your information. So once I tell them that, I tell them, you look at the security grade, what type of things are you wanting to keep on there. I try to ease their mind about it, and start small. You know, maybe you don't put your birth certificate in the cloud, but maybe you start small with, you know, one category of files that you'll keep on there just to see how that works for you. And then I also like to train my clients on how to use cloud-based services like Google Drive and Dropbox and OneDrive, uh, how they can get that to work for them on their computer, and how easy it makes to sync the files you're working on amongst different computers, or if you're on the go and need to look at it on your phone. So I kind of like to just break it down for them and just have them at ease that it's, you know, more and more things are in the cloud, and, you know, for more ease of use, you're going to want to get to know what the cloud is, and some easy services that you already have on your computer or on your phone for free that you can be utilizing right now to be more productive and have your files at your fingertips.
So what are some of your top apps? We'll narrow it down to your 3 top apps that you would recommend to any client, whether it be personal or business.
My 3 top apps are Evernote, and of course Google Drive, or if you don't like Google Drive, either OneDrive or Dropbox. But I like to have a cloud-based service and a brain dump service, whichever Evernote is. And then I like Asana for my project management. I keep my project management task in Asana, so that's great for businesses, especially if you work with teams, to have a pretty simple task list that you can keep and share amongst each other to get projects done and wrapped up.
It's one of my favorite persona, and then I can always invite my VA as a contributor to a team and just assign tasks to that person, and it'll get done. And I really, really enjoy that app. What about you, Andrea?
Yeah.
Do you have any apps that you recommend? Maybe your top 3?
The first 2 are things that Samantha already mentioned, is Evernote and Dropbox. And for those who are in the service industry, I use an app called Set More Appointments. It's also web-based. It gives a link so that my clients are able to schedule their own appointments. But I can also schedule, so if I'm at a session with the client and then we're scheduling for the next time, I schedule that and Set More Appointments. It automatically gives them a confirmation, as well as gives them a reminder text or email reminding them about our session. And that has been a lifesaver, because then they'll get an email, but it'll say that it'll prompt them either to reschedule or cancel. And so, you know, it saves a lot of time, and a lot of, you know, the nature of our clients are, you know, they're busy or disorganized. So having the confirmation go out a day or 2 before the appointment has been a lifesaver. So, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what was that called again?
Set More. But I think the whole title is Set More Appointments, but the app is, in my phone, looks just like it says Set More. And if you have a team, or you can have a person on receptionist mode. So if you're playing phone tag with the person to set an appointment, you can assign a team member to maybe follow up and then set the appointment for them.
Nice. So what are some tips, or what do you see is the biggest issue with business owners? Is it their financial paperwork? Is it their office? Or is it just overall it just transfers to any aspect? What's like the biggest thing that you've seen? Not the biggest mess, but the biggest thing you've seen as a challenge?
To me, I would say technology, of course. But I mean, because it's such a stumbling block for business owners, because there's so much out there, because there's so much to learn, because there's just every 5 minutes something new is coming out, and they're telling you, you got to be here, you got to be there, you got to be showing up here, you got to be showing up there. So I think that is a big a biggest stumbling block I'm seeing with especially new business owners and entrepreneurs is getting that technology piece together, whether that be your online presence or whether that be organizing your files on your computer, because most people have everything sitting on their desktop, 1,000 folders, can't find, there's no real filing system set up. So I think that's a big stumbling block that I've seen.
How about you, Andrea?
I would say the paper is the biggest. The mail that comes in on a daily basis. People are so overwhelmed and stretched as far as their time, and I tell people it's just that the 10 minutes it takes a day has been delayed 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. so, it just has a backlog. So people have boxes or bags of mail. Just had a client recently, and then it's the overwhelm associated with it, because we had a client recently that boxes of mail that was about 10 years old. But as we were going through it, it was the anxiety of, well, what if I need? But you haven't looked at it in 10 years. So if you needed it, I'm pretty sure it got resent to you, or you figured it out. So, but then there's the chances of the paper actually having something they do need. That one client, she moved from across the country to the East Coast and 2 different places, and in each move she had literally like maybe 6 or 7 boxes full of paper, and we had to go through each and every one of it, because she was missing her car title. She had just sold her car. She was missing a couple other things, and the shame and the guilt was involved with that, because she had it packed and moved to each different location. But also she tried to get a family member to help, and the family member was kind of, they were on top of their finances and things like that. They were just like, they got into arguments about it. They're like, how could you not have these, this open, and you had these checks that have never been, so it was just causing a lot of anxiety. So, with other things, she had us come and help with the paper, because no judgment. We're there to do the specific job to help her get through the paperwork. And a lot of my clientele are, they're highly educated, so they have a lot of paperwork from, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, postgraduate, boxes of, organic chemistry, but those, and I get it, because it's like, if you throw away your notes, it's like you're throwing away your education that the time and the money that you spent. So a lot of it is just a lot of paper that we have to sort through and then put in systems in place. And like Samantha said, it's just getting acquainted with the technology. Like, I love Evernote, and so half of my clients have never heard of Evernote, or the other half have heard of it, and they're like, oh yeah, I downloaded it, but I don't know what to do with it. So it's just, knowing how to create the paper systems and then incorporating the technology in it without getting the ooh-ah syndrome, because there's a new app that's out that will change your life.
Awesome. I had a question, and it just left my mind. Oh, I wanted to ask, because you had mentioned, Samantha, about maybe someone not being comfortable enough to upload their birth certificate online. I know I wouldn't be, but I do pretty much everything on the cloud. What are some recommendations or tools? Do you recommend getting a safe deposit box at a bank? So for those major, really important personal items, what do you recommend storing those?
You can get a safe deposit box, but it's kind of, I would do that in tandem with an online place like Safely Filed, because they have bank level encryption, and um, they're able to actually where you can go in and grant rights to who can see what. So if you only want certain family members to see certain things, uh, that it's a great service. It's very secure, um, and there's others out there. Jasmine.com is one, uh, where you can put those secure documents on there and know that they're secure, because again, they have the highest level of security there is out there. But I would have that in tandem with a safe deposit box at the bank, because when you die, it's harder to get to those files right away, uh, without going, you know, through legal, or if you've had a trust, going through all those things. So if you need to get access to stuff right away, having it on the cloud is your best bet for your family members.
Excellent. What about you, Andrea? Do you have any recommendations?
I'm very liberal about putting things on the cloud for myself. I feel like the benefit outweigh the risk for me personally, until I get burned, perhaps. But there are a lot more secure cloud-based things you can use. However, you do have to pay for those. And so I think there was one, actually a client's husband told me about. He was into IT. I think it's called Spider Oak or something like that, where it's so secure. Like if you lose your password, they can't even help you get in. Like they can't. They don't even know how. The passwords, you have to know your password. Like they can't unlock it for you or anything like that. So if you're super paranoid about that, then you could seek out some of those services that Samantha mentioned that are secure. And then I'm pretty sure if you have a box at the bank and you pay for that, you wouldn't have too many qualms about paying for a secure cloud service.
You showed a tool once that was waterproof. I don't know if you have that to show.
Yeah, I can go get it. It's called I know the company name. I did this last time.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, I'll go get it so you guys talk about that.
So out of your clients, are you mainly doing home offices? Are you doing business owners? Or is it just a mix of both, like personal business?
Now I'm doing mainly business owners, entrepreneurs, and home offices. And I'm doing a lot more virtually now. I do have a few that I still go to their home office and work on their computer and things, but it's mainly entrepreneurs and small business owners.
Nice. Oh, Andrea, you're back.
Yes. So it's called Portavault. I don't know if I'm holding it correctly.
You can see it.
But it's a very large portfolio that has a handle. It also comes with a strap, so if you have to hike through, wade through flooded streets, it'll just be on your person. But when you open it up, let me make sure nothing falls out here. It comes with a plastic sleeve. And the owner or the creator of Portavault created this after Hurricane Katrina, when she saw so many people could not get access to their important documents to prove their identity, to prove they're married, to prove they own certain things, to have cash on hand. And so it's water resistant, not necessarily waterproof, but it comes with several plastic sleeves that you stick your important documents in, And then there's this sticker that you put on each sleeve with check marks of whose information is inside and what makes up the information. So if it's their birth certificate, if it's their passport and things of that nature, it holds it all within that plastic sleeve. So I have this in a closet. So hopefully, if there is an outbreak or an emergency, I'll be home, and I could just grab it and head out the door.
Well, I guess when you can ask anyone, what's the one thing you'll take out of your house if it's on a fire or in a flood, you know what it is. It's your phone.
Right.
I live in Arizona, so I'm not in danger of a flood anytime soon or a tornado, but that's still a great tool. Excellent. So tell us anything that you teach mainly with your clients. Do you do any classes or any like specific items that you do about keeping all your financial paperwork in order one place, or what are some great tips on keeping your office area in an area, like you said, zones? Obviously it depends on the person, but what are some like really essential things you make sure every client knows when it comes to their business?
I teach a lot on different apps and software like Evernote, Canva, content productivity, social media productivity, things of that nature. And I'm actually starting a program where I'm going to be walking entrepreneurs through picking out the best apps for them to use for their business and having a blueprint, a technology blueprint for their business that is customized toward them. So that's what I like to help my clients with, is wading through all the noise of all that tech that is out there, helping them to just focus on what their specific need is for their business and sticking with it once they find one or two or three that works for them, sticking with that and not abandoning it just because something new came out, because if it's not broke, don't fix it type deal.
That's true. What about you, Andrea?
Well, I'm moving more toward holistic organizing and time management. The biggest thing that I emphasize, no matter what business a person is involved in, is having a calendar system, one that works for them. I'm a big believer in having days that are themed. One person I follow is Mike Vardy. He was actually at our organizers conference in Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and he also is a big day theme person. I found that a lot of solopreneurs, I think we're all trained from elementary school, high school, college to be employees and to work this 9-to-5 schedule. So when you become a solopreneur and you kind of have the world as your oyster, either if whatever your personality is like, you can be turned into a crazy workaholic because as a business owner you're wearing so many different hats, or you could be a right? You're like, I've been on my computer all day. Get a dog. They will make you walk during the day.
Right.
But or you could turn into this huge procrastinator because you feel like, oh, I have all this time and there's no boss. So I feel like with which both can contribute to overwhelm. So I want, as a holistic organizer, to have my clients feel stress-free and to create, a task management practice, because, life changes, it has its ups and downs. So it's like yoga. You got to just practice it and go with the flow, and just learning how to do that, and learning your energy and your rhythms, and just kind of creating a task management calendar system that works for you. Because time really can't be managed, but we can manage other things that make us productive.
I like that you mentioned that. It really is mindset and just finding out. This is what I tell my clients. It's like finding out your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and outsourcing your weaknesses, but at least knowing where they are and getting an understanding about them. And I like that you take the holistic approach to time management, because you see all these people say, wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning and that's how you're going to be a millionaire. But some people aren't morning people like me. I'm not productive. Not until 8 o'clock when my body actually wakes up, but I'm most productive and most creative at night where I get most of my work done. So it just really depends on the person, and you're right, you can't necessarily manage time, but you can do the best of your ability and work to your strengths, and I really like that you mentioned that, and hopefully someone can learn from that. And it was so funny for you to mention that solopreneurs are either one or the other. They're like, I'm free, I can do, and they're just like wild, or they're like workaholics, like, okay, this, because there's no boundaries.
Right.
Boundaries is really, really important. But for creatives, and I don't know if you ran into this, creatives don't like boundaries. So it's like, how do you balance that? How do you teach them that way? So I'm learning that with my clients that are creatives. It's like, I don't want to do a budget, so I can't call it a budget anymore. I call it a spending plan. It's the same deal,
like that.
but it sounds better. So, what do you say, or how do you approach it to make it, I guess, sound appealing, sound sexy in a way that they can absorb information and still utilize the same skills?
Well, I feel that with the holistic approach, the answer lies within the client. So the questions that I'd be asking and the framework that we'll be doing, it comes from them. So, like, you had to change the wording to the budget, because budget just sounds like it's just too much. But so you kind of when we're doing labels, for instance, what would you call it? Would you call it to-do list, or would you call it crap I have to get done? Whatever appeals to the client. Where would you look for this? I would look for it here, but you may look for it up here. So it's a lot of when you're putting a system together, there's a framework for the system, but there's a lot of leeway based on the client preferences and how they think. And a lot of times they get overwhelmed because they've read an article in Entrepreneur Magazine that says, you have to get up at 5 a.m. in order to be productive. Yeah. And so they feel like failures because they may get up at 9 and they stay up all night, guilty. It's 11:30. I should be in the bed so I can get up at 5 a.m. And so when we kind of like massage through that and overcome the guilt, that you're not on a 9-to-5 schedule, so you can use that to your advantage, then creative people they already feel that way anyway, but you might have to, like you said, sneak in certain structures, whether even if it's rocking out for 10 minutes to a song while you put your files away. You just find out what your likes and dislikes are and just play to those.
Awesome. That's great.
Delegating is not a bad word either.
It's not. You know what? It took me a long time when I first learned how to be a manager. I'm somewhat a control freak, and it took me a long time to learn delegating and be able to trust other people. I'm better at it now, but when I first started, so delegating can have a bad connotation with some people, but it really isn't that bad. So when you do meet those people when they have their weaknesses, let's say their tax paperwork or their financial paperwork, I'm just throwing something out there, do you recommend them to outsource that to help them stay organized, and that way and you teach them the skills of what to look for and make sure everything is organized and where they can find it? Or what do you do in those instances to help them play to their strengths and take care, but still be able to manage everything when it comes to their weaknesses?
One of the things that I have been learning as far as holistic organizing is figuring out what is the lowest thing or the most laughable thing you can do in order to achieve a goal. So we may think, I need to sort my receipts every day every week I'm going to scan them in, and then I'm going to do. You have this checklist of all these things you're going to do with your receipts. But in actuality, maybe putting them in an envelope by month, just stuffing them in there, and then at the end of the quarter or the end of the year, having, delegating someone say, hey, put them in by month, put them in by different accounts. And at least you'll be able to find them and you have a system. But when you start to stack all these shoulda, coulda, wouldas on top of it, then that's kind of where the wheel may fall off the cart. But if at the end of the week, I empty my wallet and I stuff all my receipts in this envelope. You can find them, you know where they are, versus you stick them in an inbox and then they fall behind your desk and then you don't know where they are. So, and then you start feeling guilty and shameful, and then you don't know what to do. So,
what about you, Samantha?
Say that again.
Oh, what about you? Do you recommend anything about outsourcing some of maybe there's things that they're not very good at keeping up with, or?
Yeah, I'm big on, I like to have control, so I kind of use myself as the muse and, tell them what things are you working on that aren't producing income, like what are you best at? If you pay somebody a little bit, like it doesn't take much to pay somebody to do a ton of things that you hate to do. Even when it comes to technology, if you really don't like scheduling and dealing with your social media, you can delegate that and concentrate more on what you are good at, like getting clients or doing your coaching or whatever, and outsource that and bring in more money, bring in more to your bottom line. So I kind of have them look at it like, what are you really focusing on, as far as your strengths, what do you really like doing and what do you hate doing? And if it's something that you hate doing that can be delegated, then by all means do that, because it doesn't take a lot of money to delegate things nowadays. You can go on Fiverr, you can go on Upwork, you can get an intern at the local college for free. There's all these different ways that you can outsource and help others be good at what they're good at and play to their strengths too, and help build your business. And it's hard when you're a control freak or someone like me who I like to have control, but I've also have been in situations where I've relied on somebody and they didn't do what they were supposed to do, or they didn't do it as well as I would have. So it's just easy to say, well, I'll just do it all. Mm-hmm. But as entrepreneurs, as business owners, you can't build your business by yourself. You have to have help. So just it's a switch in mindset, really, to keep. I'm going to focus on the things that I'm good at, that I know will help my bottom line, and anything else I'm going to outsource it, because with 2 people or 3 people working on things in your business, you can get more done. So you just don't have your 24 hours. Now you have 24 multiplied by however many people you're outsourcing to. So it's a way of gaining time too.
Yeah, that's what I like to tell my clients is we do kind of a category or an inventory of their skills and their strengths and their weaknesses, and then we really sit down and talk about what do you really hate doing and why do you hate doing that? Well, I know you don't have a lot of money because you're bootstrapping yourself, you're a solopreneur, but can you end up maximizing your time and bringing in more clients and make more money if you outsource this instead of sitting here stressing and not doing that? And my clients get so surprised when they see the results of that, when they're able to let go of some of that and take over. Well, I'm going to ask one last question before we wrap up, and it's the question I've been wanting to ask from the beginning, is how did you two get started in professional organizing? What was the trigger, and how did you start your businesses? And I'll let Andrea start first.
Well, for as long as I remember, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to be in the service industry. I have an accounting background, and I decided while I was in accounting that I did not want to I do want to be a
Yeah.
bookkeeper. I like repetition, but not that much. So I found I explored different things, and I think I was watching like an episode of Clean House. If you remember when Niecy Nash, she has the fire in her hair, and they would go through houses in California, and they had a team, and one of the team members was a professional organizer, and I was like, that's the thing. So I looked it up on the internet and found the National Association of Professional Organizers. And long story short, I found my people. My business has evolved quite a bit. I think a lot of organizers start off thinking, oh, it's bins and labels and this and that, but you find out it's more about psychology. It's more about productivity. And so a lot of people switch from residential to business, and like technology or time management and things like that. So you find your niche.
Nice. And what about you, Samantha? What's your origin story?
Well, I got started way back a long time ago. I actually went to college. The first time I wanted to be an architect, and then I realized I did not like engineering at all. So I was reading Think and Grow Rich, and so I was like, oh, an entrepreneur, yes, that's what I want to do. And then I was searching on the internet back then, and I stumbled across a site of a lady in Texas called Handy Girl. And that was the first time I had ever heard of professional organizer. And I was like, wow, okay. And she had a link on her site to NAPO National. So I clicked through to that site and had them send me some information, and found a local group here where I live, and found a local group of organizers who were meeting every month. And I called up one of them and I asked, hey, can I tag along? And she was like, sure, because I didn't know, how these ladies were going to act or anything, but they just really carried me under their wings. And, that's how I got started, was tagging along with another organizer, and then just word of mouth. And I do the business at night after my full-time job. I would do the business at night. And, I've always loved organizing. So when I first started, I did hoarders and chronically disorganized, but now I'm strictly tech, digital, computer organizing. So as your business grows and the years pass, there will be a shift. You have to reinvent and do something new, and because there's always somebody coming up behind you. So you've always got to be evolving.
Well, I'm looking forward to the day you do an Evernote webinar, because I just started and I'm slightly addicted, but I know I can do so much more with it. I just don't know it yet.
Well, I already did one.
Did
it's
you?
Already available, yes.
Okay, then I will have to look that up, and
Yes.
I'm gonna have to share that on my business page, because I think a lot of my clients or audience can definitely use that. And with that being said, why don't you guys reintroduce yourselves, tell the audience how they can find you, and whatever services that you're offering right now. I'll let you start with that, Andrea.
Well, my business is Dexterous Organizing. That's DEXTEROUS organizing.com. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Currently, I'm doing more hands-on organizing, but stay tuned. I hope to do more holistic coaching. That will be more virtual, as well as a little bit more tech. I probably won't be as tech as Samantha. Looking to be an Evernote consultant in the future, because I do love it. And like you, even though I use it on a regular basis, it's probably little things I don't know about it. But being an Evernote consultant will give me that edge in helping my clients use it to the full potential.
Nice. And you, Samantha?
Well, I'm Samantha Pointer. My business is Get It Together. You can find me online as Organizing Guru on Facebook Live, on my Facebook page, on Periscope. I'm at Organizing Guru. Starting next week on Tuesdays and Fridays, I'll be double live streaming on Facebook Live, on my business page, and on Periscope, where I'll just be talking about different tech topics, different organizing topics, and you can go to my website, which is organizingguru.com, and I have all kinds of things there, blog posts about everything under the sun, organizing and tech.
Nice. So how are you doing double broadcasting? Is there feedback or sound?
No, with my phone. I have a phone and a tablet. So I just set them up side by side and log in. So you won't hear.
You are the tech guru.
You won't be able to hear.
That's awesome. Well, we are going to wrap it up here. Again, my name is Tina Marie. I'm the CEO and founder of the Profit Project and a business success coach. You can catch this live on my YouTube channel. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at Let's Get Fiscal TV. And I'm trying to Periscope more often now, but I might have to learn a few things here from Samantha first. Folks, have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.